everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Securing Success Show with my friend
Hello.
Tracy Ninian. Tracy, how are you?
I'm a little tired, but I'm good. How are you?
Awesome.
I'm a little mellow today.
Mellow?
Yeah,
You got to get pumped up.
I know. I've just got back from a trip, and now you all are going to see this after the NRF in Dallas, but
Yeah.
John and I are both headed out to NRF, so to do 4 days travel and then 2 days home and then travel again. I just don't have it in me the way I used to. I got to be honest.
You know what? That is probably one of the things that I recognize most about getting a little bit more mature. You don't bounce back on these long trips.
No,
I
there's
went
not
to a
staying up as
party
late.
2 Saturdays ago, and I was shot Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
I remember the old NRFs. We used to get up for the breakfast and all the speakers, because those were great in the beginning. All the kind of higher leadership was always at the early morning stuff, right? Because they had already learned. But then you'd want to stay and get to meet everybody after the show at night. So I'd be out till sometimes 2 or 3 in the morning, and then up at 6, and I could do it. Now there's no way.
No.
Absolutely. And I do one cocktail maybe on these trips now. We used to have quite a good time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody, as I always do at the NRF. I didn't think I was going to be able to make it because I won't get into it, but I did move my daughter home from college this past week. I thought it was going to be next week, and it shifted, so now I can go, and I'm still looking for a hotel room. So I know. I'll find it. I'll do the Hilton or something. Anyways.
Awesome. We got a great show.
I'm looking forward to it. This is a very tenured, experienced, specialized LP professional. Joe Box, as many of you know, he is the VP of Asset Protection and Safety at NEXCOM, which is the Navy Exchange Service Command. A lot of people don't know how comprehensive and deep his role goes. He has not just the US, but international distribution centers, main hubs, Hawaii, Japan, commerce, fraud. He may even do personnel security background checks. I mean, he is spread thin, and he does a lot. Workforce of more than 14,000 associates worldwide.
Wow.
And what they do is they provide the goods and the services to the Navy and all the people in our service people in the Navy on the bases. Nobody ever thinks about that. That's retail LP, right?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Right. Super specialized. He's been an AP for over 20 years. He's got a strong loss prevention background, risk management, compliance, fraud. He's got an MBA and a BA in criminology, and he's got a CFE. I do believe he belongs and has been very active in every association with an acronym in our industry. He has run in deep and contributed so much. I'm really looking forward to asking him some questions, because he's had a unique perspective. Unlike corporate America, he's run into some other unique challenges that he's had to navigate, and I'm really looking forward to him sharing those.
Awesome.
So with all ado, Mr. Joe Box.
Hey, Joe.
How'd they do, Joe?
Pretty good.
Okay, cool. Did I make any mistakes?
No, I wouldn't tell you if you did it if I had to. So
No, I want to know.
It gets me in trouble.
You're wow, I did all
gets in
that.
trouble on this show.
No. Yeah, I know. No,
the only one who gets in trouble is Adam. Adam, our producer.
Yeah.
He takes all the heat. He's a prince, but he's the only one. Everybody else gets a free pass.
I appreciate the honor to be on the show. So.
Oh, thank you.
So, Joe, before we get started, it's very difficult time right now, and that must create some extra issues for you if you have any type of international conflict and troops are deployed, or the Navy is deployed,
or anything you can actually talk about. Right?
Yeah,
because we have a confidentiality thing here.
This is is it above and beyond? Is it business as usual? Tell us a little bit about that. I know it's not really something we were going to start with, but I just felt it was appropriate.
Yeah, it's not business as usual. As you mentioned, we have footprints globally, and wherever there's a military base, you have our operations, and then you have our sister services. So, whenever you're that close to conflict, obviously you have to ramp up and follow the guidelines, what the military tells you to do. So I'll just keep it that in that swim lane. But it does impact operations, some issues where we have skeleton crews trying to support the operations. That's just the way it is. Because again, we're civilians. We're, of those 13,000 associates worldwide, we have a small contingent of military that work in our headquarters spaces and so forth that are the middleman between us and then obviously Congress and all that. So, and the bottom line is it does impact us. We still have to safeguard our associates and take those precautionary measures when something happens. So we react when the military says we react, and that's how it is. So it does impact our operations, but we're there for the prime reason of the sailor and their family. So any type of global conflict would have us react to where everyone's gone except the military.
Right.
So yes, the answer would be yes. We're definitely impacted by our current world events.
Well, we really appreciate you making the time to be on the show. We could have filmed it any other time, but you're very gracious. So we're lucky to have you. And let me start. I could ask the first question. It's really about your overall leadership and your style. Everybody has their own style, but tell us a little bit about your style in this job, and has it really evolved over the years? Have you done things that reinforce your basic standards and leadership style? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, over the year, I've been in this position for 5 years. Under my senior other leadership we had, my predecessor he retired in 2020. Well known throughout the industry. I think you all remember him, Fritz Herscher. He was my mentor and guide. Fast forward to 2020, I assumed this role, so it was obviously competed for the role, but assumed the role and everything that went with it. And of course, what happened in 2020? COVID. So it was very difficult times when you have to pause, reset, and flex to where you have to, again, impact operations. And we had the same, protocols in place that anybody else had in commercial industry with under the CDC guidelines. So my leadership style was, in the last 3 years, has been very challenging. I can say that. I'm more of a servant leader behind the scenes. I'm not, an individual that needs to be on the soapbox, no pun intended. But the bottom line is that my style is servant leadership. All my mentors and proteges that I've had throughout my career, it's all about investment. So my leadership style is to, moving from a tactical, if you will, doing things to more of a strategic mindset in these last 5 years. So the huge part of me is investing in our people to help them move through the career ladder. And if you ask anybody, that's what I do. If you want to own it, you want to make the time instead of one day I will try to do X. No, you have to make the time. And that was given to me. And that's my leadership style, is to empower the people, be transparent, and then invest in their career path and where they want to go. So.
Was Fritz leadership? Did you learn that from Fritz? Was his kind of the same thing? Did he really kind of let you figure out what you wanted to do and where your strengths were and run with them?
Yeah, I did. I remember the first time I came from Europe, one of my he's another mentor, basically said, hey, got a new guy at corporate, a new director of loss prevention, came from the commercial industry, said, you should go work for him. And I said, okay, I'll do that. And Fritz pretty much did exactly what I've done. Is he invested in me. I'll never forget one of the first meetings that I had with him. He had on his paper, he said, I see your resume. I see you've done a lot of things, a lot of great things, and a lot of things have been said about you over in your time in Europe and then prior to that, Chicago. But he says, well, I don't really see a degree on your resume. I said, yeah, that's true. I said, well, at one time I might get to it. I may do it. I'll think about it. And he goes, oh, next week, you're going to come into my office and you're going to go back to school. And he said, I don't care what school you go. We have a bunch of schools in this area, Old Dominion, ECU, and the list went on. Virginia Tech, it doesn't matter. There's a ton of schools around here. Pick a class and tell me which one you've enrolled in. So, because I didn't go through the traditional route of, I went to college for the wrong reasons. I went to go play baseball. Partying. Of course, you didn't hear academics in that mix. So I failed, and it really bothered me for years that I didn't have a degree. And going to shows or conferences, it still bugged me. So he was one of the mentors that I had that led the path and said, hey, Joe, we're going to invest in you. I'll pay for your school, through our tuition assistance program. All you have to do is do it. So make the time. All I hear is excuses from you. So lo and behold, that's what I did.
Awesome.
Single guy came back to the States and went back to school full time, I guess part-time, and finished my associates, then finished my undergraduate. And then I really got the fever and then went back to school several years later and achieved my MBA. So that, and to me, instilled that he invested in me. So I got to pass it on. So as a true leader, he empowered me to do a lot of things. And to be candid, one of my very first conferences, as we talk about RELA and NRF, I'll never forget this. My first show down in Orlando, I think it was in '96, so that dates me. But he basically sees his buds from industry and says, "See you later." Guess what? I had never been to a show. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what the expectation was. I knew my role at corporate, but he basically just said, "See you later. You're on your own." And I learned a lot of things that first show at RELA. It was under the old acronym back in the day, but I'll never forget that because I was walking around clueless in a show, not knowing what to do, what sessions to go to, what exhibitors to talk to. So I kind of winged it that first year being at the RELA. But he really grabbed me by the hand and walked me the path and taught me and said, you're here to learn, go learn. I'm not going to hold your hand forever, but he really opened that door that I don't think is given to a lot of people during their career path, but I'm probably wrong, but it's been a fun time. And yeah, he really gave me the flexibility to, hey, pave your own way. My name's Fred Searcher. I came from HQ, meaning home quarters, and I had prior, experience at Sears and Montgomery Wards and all those guys. And then guess what? He's like, this is your path, not mine. So true blessing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing. So I guess you could say that Fritz was your mentor. Anybody else that was a mentor to you?
So prior to Fritz, when I worked in Europe, I had a boss. He was a military officer, and his name was Bruce Bennett. He was a captain in the Navy, and just think of him as a regional vice president. And he did this. He did the same thing with me. He invested in me, taught me a lot about. He came from corporate, our headquarters, and really gave me insight to how things work, including him saying, "Hey, pick up the phone and talk to, Reggie White, for example." And I'm like, "Well, we're not supposed to be calling Reggie White. He's a corporate." He's like, "What are you talking about? Just give him a call. He's going to tell you how he can assist you and do." So just streamline the communications and more or less introduce me to a number of people at corporate that could help me out since I was in Europe. So it was always good when I traveled back to headquarters from Europe. I was in Italy, and I'd always make it a point. Every time I came back, whether I came back for a conference, work, whatever it was, I would always go see that individual behind the email and, saying, hey, John, hey, Tracy, my name is Joe Box. I'm here in the flesh. And automatically, "Hey, Joe, hey, come on in. Let's talk about things." So you always put a personal, the relationship and build that relationship, which makes you, later in your career path, a strategic leader is part of what we do to get things done. So, fast forward to industry, though, a number of people that I was introduced to, and whether they know they're a mentor or not, I could. King Rogers, Joe LaRocca, Brett Ward, Wayne and Stephanie Hoover, Ann Faculty. I mean, the list goes on. You too, for example. I know we didn't have LinkedIn years ago, but going to these shows, really, when my mentors opened the door for me, I became almost like, watch out, because I'm going to go meet these individuals who are the icons in industry to say, hey, how can I get better? Because as I gravitated through my career path, I've always asked questions. I always say, all right, John, hey, Tracy, what can I do better? Because I'm a 360 guy now. I'm a John Maxwell guy. I love 360 feedback, and I want you to be candid. I even ask my staff that to this day. I'll ask them, hey, how during performance evaluation time, people don't like to do them, but we sit down and I'm like, okay, how can I be a better leader? What can I do for you? How can I make you successful? And that's my cadence has been for the last probably almost 10 years now. So it's more or less, I have a lot of mentors, and I'm sure somebody will shoot me something on LinkedIn and say, hey, you didn't mention my name, but I have a ton out there that I've been grateful to be in touch with, to constantly talk on LinkedIn, WhatsApp, or whatever, or even the simple phone call or meet in person when we can. But yeah, it's been an honor meeting all these people. Mike Lamb, I mean, I'm just one of the icons of industry, just reached out to me on LinkedIn with me the other day. Even though I met Mike when he was at Home Depot, Marvin Ellison, I met him back in the day with King Rogers and Keith White, and the list goes on. You're sitting around, you're not sure who these people are, but they know something that can help you out in your career path. And that's what I tell all my people, all the people I work with. I don't work for you. You make me. And that's what it is. You guys are the nuts and the bolts, the subject matter experts. So it's one of those things that I've instilled in my leadership, my core values, my beliefs, even since I've been on board. And, it's been these tumultuous times we've going through in the last 5 years. You still stand, you persevere, and you keep moving. So those are a bunch of, I know I didn't answer one, say, hey, this is my one mentor, but I gave you a boatload of people that have helped me in my career path. That's why I'm here today. So
That's great. And Tracy, we've had like a large portion of those folks on the show. So I guess we're heading down the right direction.
I will attest to Joe being extremely accurate with how he's been over the years, but you've also been very personable, open to helping people. So whenever I've ever had a question or needed something, a direction, an introduction, Joe's always been very open to helping me, and vice versa. We've had some great conversations over the years.
Yeah, we have.
The message I want everybody to hear on this is that Joe actively, with intent, went out to identify and find people that could give him more information and move him along in his career journey.
Absolutely.
Not being afraid to approach people, not feeling like you're not worth it. I'm going to say these in the positives instead of the negatives, because our brains don't, if you all don't know this, our brains actually don't quantify negative. When you say don't forget something, what your brain here is forget something. So what you want to say is remember to bring whatever. But you are worth it. You are valuable. You do have promise. The more you believe in yourself and get your mindset shifted and approach people like Joe, or as Joe did, all these people throughout the years, to not be afraid. Okay, you know what? Be afraid, but still do it. How about that? You can still be nervous, because I've been nervous approaching people and asking for work or earning business. We're all nervous, and recognize that too, right? Like, butterflies are there. The lump in the throat is there. Do it anyways.
Yeah, and that's a good point. One of the things that I still continue to evolve, if you will, I remember if you start talking about stretching and saying being in fear, I remember, going to the Merchant Risk Council for the first time, which dealt with e-commerce fraud. And I remember going there and I had no clue what any of these, and I call them kids, they were young. They're, Facebook, Google, LinkedIn. They break us out in like fraud 101, and I'm at a table with all of these brilliant minds, and they start talking about, and this is in the infancy of e-wallet, and they kept talking about an e-wallet, and I'm like, what the heck is an e-wallet? I'm thinking to myself, I didn't say it, but I'm like thinking, I have no idea what these kids are talking about. But that's what you do, is you keep on going to these different events and conferences that are outside the scope of what you do, and not become so siloed. And so, whether it's the certified fraud examiners, Merchant Risk Council, LPRC, all these other events that you go to, you learn from all these brilliant minds who are in the market and industry, and you just sit there and you be a sponge. And that's what I do, is I'll listen. Not that I don't know. I know the subject matter. I just don't know about the detail. I think a lot of people, getting into the weeds. And as a leader, you need to know the weeds, but sometimes the weeds are too much, and that's where you have your people to tell you what to do and how to do it, because they're smarter than you. So
if you're a good leader, your people are hired. They're smarter than you, without a doubt.
Definitely.
So I have a question, and it's off topic, like I warned you it was going to be, because you went in later in life and got your MBA. I believe you were mid 2000s, like 2013, 2012. You got your MBA. Okay. I remember when you started it, I thought, how is he going to do that? A lot of people want to get a degree, but they're working and paying the bills. How did you do it?
Well, I had a lot of support from my wife and my colleagues. They knew I was going to school. So not to mention, God bless my wife. She had, during that time, we had 2 kids. So try to juggle that in the midst of things. I have 3 gorgeous daughters, and I think a lot of people in the industry know Susan, my wife. It's kind of like the Hoovers. It's the boxes. So the bottom line is, it's late nights. But once I bit, after I got my undergraduate degree, I told Susan, I said, listen, I'm going to bite, and then I'm going to keep going, because I'm hungry to get that MBA. And it was very difficult. I'm not going to say it was easy at all, whether it's online, because it was a hybrid. It was online and in class. And if you think it's easy and you think it's passive, then you can just blow it off again. But you really have to commit to it in order to get it. And that's what I did. It was late nights. And I remember my last capstone. It was due at 11:59, like on a Tuesday. I was freaking out because it wasn't sending. I had to send, and I had to make sure, because now they have, mechanisms in place. You got to make sure you don't plagiarize, because they'll pick it up on, like, I think it's called Turnitin and a few others now. But I had to make sure that I had all my references, my sources, my citations all in order. But I remember hitting that button like at 11:58, and I was like, please, Lord, let this go through, because I wasn't going to get an extension. But yeah, it was tough. It was a long, long nights. Right after work, come home, eat, get right to the books. So
it's a commitment. I know that a lot of people that want to move maybe out of LP into operations, into other departments, whether it be retail or like the corporate security, that we're now looking at transitioning some LP people out of, because the industry is consolidating. I do believe it'll make you more competitive in in the selection of that resume through that online application if you're not using a recruiter? Do you think it was worth it? Are you happy you did it?
Yeah, and I've been in this company a long time. It was an investment the company gave, to me that, obviously I mentioned Fritz before, but with our program, our tuition assistance program, I was able to achieve where I had, my undergraduate paid for, and then they pay for a certain percentage of your master's. Yeah, it's not like, I get my MBA and I want a $20,000 raise. That's not it. For me, it was more of expanding my knowledge and understanding business rather than saying, well, you're a security guy. What do you know about business? And that's what an MBA does for you, whether if you specialize in, international business or some other specialization. But the bottom line is it gives you the broad and detail behind, how to run a business, and what to look for on your P&L and everything else. So
That's huge.
yeah, it was worth it, I think, from an educational academic standpoint. But I wasn't looking for, all right, I finished my MBA, give me $20,000 raise, make me the COO. That was never in my mind. It was just more of, I've told everyone that I work with is when you go to the table, and if you don't have a degree, then go after your associates, really, like I mentioned. But do something, invest in yourself, and leverage yourself amongst your peer group. Because what happens is when you go to apply for another job elsewhere, what they're going to look for is you may have everything is equal, but then they're going to say, well, Reggie White has an undergraduate or a master's degree or a specialization or a certification. So anybody that comes to me that I work with, I automatically, you make the investment with me, I'll make the investment with you, whether it's the LPC, LPQ, undergraduate, or any type of other certification is going to help you propel your career and your career path, under your professional development. That's what you need to do. That's what I'll do for you, is to invest in you like the company invested in me. It's just the right way to pass it back on, as I mentioned before.
I'm gonna make one more comment on that, because a lot of people think, oh, it's just a degree. It's a reflection of you committing to something and completing it as well. It's a mindset.
Right.
And I've told my kids this, right? They're both, well, Xander just graduated, so yay.
Hey, congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you. Elizabeth, too, she's going to go to grad school. She thinks she wants to be a teacher. I said, but beyond that, if you don't do your chosen degree profession, it shows them that you started something and you finished it.
Bingo.
Yeah. It's a reflection of that. So what other, I know you're Six Sigma, right? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, I'm a champion. I went through the initial course, but I'm not a green belt or a black belt. But yes, so I'm a champion to the Lean Six Sigma process, and that's still another. I have a couple on staff that we invested in them as far as becoming green belts. And yeah, you want to go for a green belt and a black belt? Definitely. There's any company out there will hire you because there's always process improvement or continuous improvement, in their infrastructure and how they do things. I think we all have it, but. Yeah, it was interesting to be introduced to that. It was another thing. Hey, Joe, there's a course on Lean Six Sigma. You're going. I'm like, okay, I'll go, and I learned. And that's what you do, is you learn about the process. So at least when you become, part of a charter and you can champion it, and then you can guide them in that direction. Not again getting into the details or the micros or macros, but at least you're able to guide them in the right direction. And I've been on a couple charters, I've been champions to those causes. So, but didn't pursue it beyond a green belt or a black belt.
So would you say those are your top two kind of investments in self-development? Is there anything else you can think of that you really have found value in?
Well, the Certified Fraud Examiner's course is very hard. And I had wanted to do that for a while, and based on the investigations we do. Also, again, investing in myself to say, okay, if I launch from this company, I go to a different company. CFE is always a great credential to have, very difficult to achieve. But again, it's everyone's personal, their personal, whatever they want to do to get to that next level with regards to investigations, whether CFI, LPC, LPQ. A lot of our staff members are taking the LPQ now, and our midline level managers are taking the LPC. A few have achieved the CFE. That is very insightful, very difficult, but it breaks it down into different modules within the CFE to get that credential. And there's government, there's law, there's fraud and theft, obviously, and contracts, government. The list goes on. But it's a very good resource if you are really excelling into the investigative arena of any specialty, any industry out there, rather.
So true. So true. And you know what, Joe, you are part of an evolution in the industry where you own the e-commerce fraud operation. So you're starting to see that evolve more and more.
John's lane.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's. I think in my prior conversation with Tracy, she asked, he goes, "Who gave you the short end of the stick?" And I said, I think if you remember that conversation we had, Tracy, but
I do.
I said, well, sometimes you raise your hand and you know what industry, and that was, and John, that's a good point. When I went to MRC, because one of the gentlemen I work with, Tom Ruane, he actually ran that program from ground up, and he's our director, one of our directors on our staff. But yeah, e-commerce platform, once I went to MRC and learned about what it was about, then I said the natural migration for us is to make sure we have specialists on staff that we're actually looking at e-commerce fraud and building those rules and exceptions, kind of like exception reporting, but in the e-commerce world, to build the rules so we can prevent fraud from happening. Because believe it or not, if you go to mynavyexchange.com, we have the same people out there from the dark web trying to, it doesn't matter, it's the Navy they're looking at. It doesn't matter if it's Macy's, Navy. They're all trying to penetrate the network to get what they want, an account takeover and identity theft and so on. So yes, we have that portion of for preventing loss, which we call total loss. And I raised my hand, years ago, said, yeah, we'll assume. It was after Fritz left, and then we'll continue the path. And it's a booming business because the bad guys want to get through your net and they want to manipulate, what they can, since you're the government. So.
It's timely because the industry is going in that direction where the fraud departments are now reporting up into the APLP VP, the
Right.
leader of that organization, because it makes 100% sense. So we
Right.
did a survey a couple months ago with the LPRC, and it's about 40% now.
Wow. Yep.
So that's like it's not really a tried and true percent, but that's sort of where the industry is right now. 3 years ago it was 10%.
Right.
So that's where you're going to
Yeah.
come forward.
And we were one of them. And one of the things we did when we went to the MRC, for all those out there that are migrating to under APLP, the e-commerce fraud part, is we went to the MRC to learn. But in that, we were very fortunate to get 2 mentors. We were assigned as proteges to a mentor group, where my mentor was from Walmart. He's since left Walmart and now is with Costco, but the other one was from Target. So those 2 gentlemen, Brad Helm and Brad Maris, big contributors to having us understand. And our transaction velocity is nowhere near Walmart or Target. But the bottom line is that they were, hey, I pick up the phone, I talk to Brad or I talk to Fred and say, hey, here's our situation. What do you think? Because even with the LPRC and also some of the things we're doing, collectively with sharing data, is something we didn't do in the past. We have, launched in the ORC as well, because it all, connects to each other, to where we're sharing the data with our outside partners, whether it's Target, Lowe's, Home Depot, and so forth, like via Aurora, and sharing that data to where we can also, take advantage of the situation, and you can use our information too for the bad guys that are hitting us daily. So
It's awesome.
but I'm glad to hear that it's up in the 40%. I didn't know that number. So
yeah, it's rising every year. I've been doing a lot of study on this, and
yeah,
the unification is becoming very hot. So
right.
we see
Right.
more of it in January. Most of the teams reorganize, but it's a big deal.
Yeah. We and e-commerce is that was another business that we absorbed, and just recently we just went about 2 years ago. We merged with a hospitality and services. So just think of hotels. We had what we call Navy lodges. Now it's called the Navy Hospitality Group, and they've merged with us for families and sailors and so on. So they have places to stay in transit during when they move and relocate. That's a new frontier for us with hospitality and service, meaning safety, and even though safety is under us as well, to help and be proactive in making sure our customers are safe. So.
Wow, we covered a lot of ground here.
We did.
We had other questions, but we've kind of incorporated all of it. Networking and mentors and self-development. You have some great insights, and you're so you transfer your knowledge so easily and simply. And I think it's really going to be easy to take notes and do a lot of the stuff that you gave suggestions on today. I hope everyone listening does that. You've been an awesome guest. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That and for everything you've done for the industry. You've been so involved, and you were such a free giver and servant leader, as you said. We're good. You have anything else you want to say to people listening to the background or watching our little faces?
No, I think in the totality of what I do and what we do, it's just one of those things that I like to contribute to the industry along with my team. My team makes me, like I said, they're huge part of how
Shout out to the team.
Yeah, no, we don't have to fight at the table, but we are at the table, and we're known for our professionalism and what the products that we produce and the results we produce to be there, influencing without authority is what I call it, and just building a cohesive team all around because we deal with so many business lines. But it's always making an impact is what it is. It's like, how can we get better at what we do? We all have our differences. We all have our differences of opinion. But the end we want result is to be profitable, protect our associates and our customers, and have fun in what we're doing. So
That's
great
awesome.
Stamp. Thank you so much for taking
Thank you,
time out
Joe.
of your day. I really, really appreciate it. We won't see you at the NRF this year, but hopefully next year.
that's the plan. I want to bring my team too, at
Yeah.
least a corporate, and that way get back on the horse with conferences and having more exposure and the networking, and we'll see.
Well, you've added a great new chapter to our library of tribal knowledge. I just came up with that. That's kind of my goal with this.
Yeah.
So thank you again. That's a wrap for the show. Everybody have
Thank
a
you.
great day.
And an honor to be here. I appreciate it. Thanks for the invite
Thanks,
again.
Joe.
Take care, Joe.